As the subject matter experts worked with the user experience designers to describe the work that libraries do, it became clear that library staff perform complex workflows that touch many functional areas and involve coordination between several people with specialized knowledge. Tracking these workflows and ensuring the right information is present to make a decision involved combinations of emails, spreadsheets, post it notes, and personal memory. There is limited visibility into the status of any one process and often insufficient metrics for supporting decisions on staffing and training for the overall system. With this observation, Philip Jacobson, the lead user experience designer on the Folio project, worked with subject matter experts to design an app for setting up process workflows and an app for guiding staff through their specialized roles in completing a process. This video walks you through the workflow and to-do app prototypes available at ux.folio.org. The workflow app is for setting up a series of actions and decision points corresponding to the process of how materials move through our libraries. The overall layout of the app follows the same three-pane design found in many Folio apps. The search and filter pane on the left, a scrolling list in the middle of items that match the search and filter criteria, and a detailed view to the right. The filters on the left are ones that came from early suggestions in the user experience design process and may change as further development and testing is completed. In the prototypes list of defined workflows in the middle, one is highlighted, and the details of that workflow are on the right. The basic information for the workflow includes a title and description, as well as tags for grouping workflows together. Under the Access and Error Handler heading are individuals and groups that can modify the workflow and receive errors when there are exceptions to the workflow. Information under the Triggers heading shows how this workflow can get started, whether through human intervention or by the system detecting activity on a record. We'll see some initial ideas on what system triggers could be possible later in the video. The next section is the workflow steps themselves. This workflow keeps track of a number of holds on an item, and if there are more than 6, a purchase request task is created and assigned to an individual. This workflow is triggered whenever a hold is placed on an item. The workflow creates a variable and adds 1 to it for each hold. Then there is a condition test. Is the number of holds greater than 6? If the condition is true, the task action, the create task action is performed. The workflow then pauses for 90 days and subtracts 1 from the number of holds in the holds variable. The workflow is then complete. The bottom of the workflow contains details of information about when this workflow was run and when it will run again. Let's see what is proposed for creating a new workflow, and we'll start by creating a new workflow from scratch. We start by filling in the basic information about the workflow, including the title. In this example, we're going to create a workflow that triggers when an item needs to be sent to conservation for rebinding. We select the item's changes status trigger and drag it to the triggers box. We change the parameters so this workflow is triggered whenever the item is checked in. Other parameters can be set, and the trigger can provide variables to be used in subsequent workflow steps. Next, we select the steps that occur in the workflow. We drag the Add a Note to Record step, put in the item record ID variable, and add the comment that the book is being rebound. Then we drag the Create Task step into the Workflow Steps box, give it a name, and assign the task to a person or group. Our workflow can include decision steps, loops, forms to fill out, and any workflow steps defined in the Folio applications installed on the system. For now, we can save and close this workflow. We can also add a workflow by exploring workflow definitions from a variety of sources. The library staff on our Folio installation could define these workflows, or the workflows could come from libraries that have published them for others to use. The vendors that we use could define workflows that are specific to the systems and services they offer, and those could be imported and adapted into our Folio system as well. A companion to workflows is the To-Do app, where the workflow app sets up the prescribed triggers and steps for a process. The To-Do app makes executions of those workflows visible to the user. This screen is more complicated than most of the Folio prototypes, but it follows the same basic structure of moving from general on the left to specific on the right. The leftmost column is a list of tasks assigned to the logged in user or the logged in user's team. The next column lists the workflows in a particular list that are waiting for the user's action. The third column gives a summary of the workflow steps as context for the action that the user needs to perform. The fourth pane describes the task and brings together information from within Folio or from external systems to help the user make the appropriate decision. In this case, the request is to order a copy of The Grapes of Wrath, and the user is shown potential works and versions to fulfill the request. The user can take an action that affects the overall workflow, such as setting it aside for a while. Alternatively, the user can act to complete the step with one or more actions suggested by the system. The last column shows notes of user and system activities that have occurred during the execution of the workflow. These are early iterations of the workflow and To-Do apps, and we expect refinements to the design as discussion and user testing continues. You can add your thoughts and ideas to the conversation by using the comment link at the bottom right of each prototype.